my name is Jim Jasinski. I'm with the Ohio State University Extension Department of Integrated Pest Management. We're here in the middle of August, standing at the Western Agricultural Research Station, which is in South Charleston, Ohio. We're in the middle of a 6-acre pumpkin plot that we're looking primarily at powdery mildew disease control. But as you can see around me, there's another disease that's sort of taken off here and has wiped out part of the plot. This disease that I'm going to show you and talk about later is called Microdochium blight, or it's been recently renamed Plectosporium blight, and it's the common name of white speck. It's a soil-borne fungus. It shows up sporadically in Ohio. It showed its head here on the station a couple years ago. We had some research here looking at some resistant varieties. And so I'll show you up close the various symptoms you're going to see on the leaves, on the petioles, on the vines, and on the fruit. We'll also talk about some of the management strategies that we have, both culturally and with fungicides. Okay, so I'm crouched down in that same pumpkin field we talked about a few moments ago. This is where our big powdery mildew fungicide trial takes place. And I want you to look at the foliage on my right-hand side, how green and healthy this foliage looks. And as we pan more toward the left, you're going to see a great big dead pocket, dead space that's in this plot. And this is not caused by powdery mildew. This again is caused by Microdochium or white speck or Plectosporium, whatever you would like to call it. And so this is a very devastating disease, obviously. You can see that there is nothing in this region whatsoever. And so we're going to take a closer look at what these symptoms look like on the leaves, the petioles, the vines, and the fruit. First off, you'll notice on the leaf these very tiny white specks that are covering the top of the leaf surface. You're going to see these symptoms only when the pressure of Microdochium in that area is extremely high. Probably the first thing you're going to see that's going to be noticeable to you is actually the petiole itself. A lot of these spindle-shaped lesions that run up and down the shaft of the petiole, and I'll point those out here. They'll even travel to the underside of the veins on the bottom of the leaf. And when you get high pressures of Microdochium, you're going to see blisters appear on the back of those veins. So now we're going to take a look at the symptoms on the vines, and you can see this leaf is covered with Microdochium symptoms. We talked about the petioles being covered with those lesions, and now look at the vine itself. You can see that it's almost bleached white from the number of lesions that are up and down the vine. This is very characteristic of Microdochium under high pressure. So this is a fruit that's been infected with Microdochium, and you can see on the surface of the fruit all these white little small marks which give it the common name white speck disease at the same time. This is going to destroy the fruit finish here and render this pumpkin unsellable. Also, if you look at the handle, you're going to see these white marks that run up and down the handle. They are spindle shape, and these are in fact lesions created by Microdochium. This might look similar to cucumber beetle feeding, but as you look, you'll see that every one of those is very diamond-shaped, very spindle-shaped, tapered at the ends. And this is in fact Microdochium. So again, fruit that have this disease are not going to be sellable on the open market, and they will in fact eventually rot. Okay, so far we've talked about the biology of Microdochium, and we've shown you some of the signs and symptoms on the foliage and the fruit. Let's talk about management. In terms of management, there are very few options for this disease. In terms of host plant resistance, that is pumpkin plants that are able to fend off Microdochium, the story there isn't so good. We've had research conducted here at Ohio State last couple of years that have shown that there are no commercially available pumpkins that have resistance to this disease. There are some relatives, some of the machadas, and some hybrids of machada and pepo that look pretty good. The foliage is very green. There's no symptoms on the foliage. However, the fruit is not commercially viable. So we're still working on that angle. In terms of other management, we have rotation is something that we practice here in Ohio. We mentioned usually a 3-year rotation for cucurbits. If you know you have Microdochium instead of going on a 3-year rotation, you're going to want to stretch that out to maybe 4 or 5 years, and especially with no cucurbit crops in between. Lastly, we're going to talk about fungicides. There is one group of fungicides that has shown some activity against this disease, and those would be the strobilurin type fungicides. So we're talking about Flint and Cabrio and Quadris. Those have been shown to have some efficacy against this disease. So we don't have a lot of options, but we have a few options. Okay, so I think that pretty much wraps it up here at the Western Ag Research Station in South Charleston. I hope you've learned a few things about Microdochium today. If you have any more questions, feel free to contact anyone here at Ohio State about this issue.